Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today, as you can see from the title of the video, I am going to be doing my first ever, I believe, quarterly wrap-up slash check-in. Honestly, this is the first time that I have ever done this. I don't know exactly what all you guys are expecting or would like to see from me. I'm going to give you a few things that I know for sure that I wanted to cover in this quarterly check-in thing, and then from there you can let me know if there's more or less that you want to see. I'm going to go over like tangible goals, like things that I can actually let you know if I made progress on, and then I'm also going to be kind of touching on my 12 must reads for 2021 because I have been making progress on that, and maybe go over a little bit of stats that I have so far. We're going to start off with as much of my goals that I can really go over, which honestly I don't even think that there's too much that I can really touch on. Starting off with my first major goal, which was my number count goal. So if you haven't already seen my 2021 reading slash channel goals, then I will make sure to link that up above so you guys can go check that out. But my number goal as far as books that I wanted to read this year was set at is set at 150 books. If I somehow manage to reach that, then my stretch goal is going to be 200 books. But as of the beginning of the year, my goal is 150 books. As of right now, I have finished 51 books, which I'm super happy with. As far as breakdowns, I read 20 books in January, 13 in February, and then 19 in March. January, I read about 7,200 pages. February, I read almost 5,500, and then in March, once again, a little bit over 5,400. And then as far as a few other stats going into genres that I've read, the majority of the books that I have read was fantasy. That is at 54% of the books that I have read so far have been fantasy. And that is 27 of the books that I have read so far have been fantasy. Then my next highest genre read was mangas, and I have read 7 mangas so far for 14%. And then my third highest, which was just a book lower, is romance for 12% at 6 books. I have a few other categories that are scattered here and there, but as of right now it's like between 1 and 3 books read for each of those, so I'm not going to go through those. But so far I've read over 9 different genres. Reading method is another thing that I like to look at, even though this one I don't really care too much about. But the highest rate or the highest percentage of reading method that I have is mixed media. That includes like ebook and audiobook, or physical and audio. So that is my highest at 32.7%, which was a total of 17 books. Right underneath that is at almost 31% with 16 books in audiobook format. My next highest is physical books at 21.2% at 11 books read so far this year. And finally, my lowest reading category as far as reading method is 15%, almost 15.5% at ebook, and that is 8 of the books that I have read so far. Then going back over to my star ratings, so my highest section is 4 stars, and that is at 30 of the books that I have read so far have received 4 stars from me. 13 of the books that I have read have received 25%. 7 have received 5 stars, and then finally 1 book that I have read so far has received 1 or 2 stars from me. Is there anything else that I want to go through as far as stats? I guess I can go through age categories. So 31 of the books that I have read so far have been adult titles. 23 of them have been young adult. Middle grade is 4. Children's is 2. I think another fascinating thing so far is that 73% of the books that I have read so far have been from series, while only 26, almost 27% have been from standalone. And then I think the last of the stats that I'm really going to talk about, because honestly I don't even know if I want to keep all of this in here, but 27 of the books that I have read have been books that I have owned before the start of 2021. 13.5% have been from books that I have borrowed from the library. I've gotten a few from Kindle Unlimited, a few that I have purchased. Another thing that I think that I would like to keep track of, which is just something for my personal preference, is rereads versus first time reads. So for rereads, it is at 34.6% with a total of, I think that says 18 books so far. And then first time reads is at 65%, which is equaling out to 34 books. And I think as of right now that I'm going to leave my stats there and then get into a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about. So next I wanted to go over the books that I have finished so far that were part of my 12 must reads of 2021. So if you have not seen that video, I will also make sure to link that up above for you guys to check out. But basically I had 12 options to choose from that list, and I was so far so good. Basically I have read 3 books off of that 12 book list so far, which is equaling out to what I've needed to finish by the end of the first quarter. So quickly going over books that I did already finish for that list. So the first one that I finished was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini, which is an adult sci-fi that I randomly picked up kind of out of the blue, and I'm actually happy that I did pick it up because I think it ended up getting like 4 stars for me, and I'm really hoping that there's a sequel that I can check out at some point. But first book that I finished off of my list. The next one that I finished was The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, which is a middle grade fantasy. This one was not my favorite. I think it ended up getting around 3 stars from me, but it has been on TBR lists for years and years, both for monthly TBRs and readathon TBRs, and it just constantly kept getting put aside. And I was determined to finish it. I finished it, and it almost didn't happen again, but it finally got read. The last book that I have finished so far as of the end of March on this list is A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. This one is actually a YA fantasy. Those are the 3 books that I have finished so far off of my 12 must reads of 2021. And the final thing that I wanted to talk about briefly in this video is my 5-star reads that I have so far for the first 3 months or the first quarter of the year. Starting right off, we have Raybearer by Jordan F. Waco, which is a YA fantasy. This one is following a character named Terry Sai, and she is born through a wish that her mother made in order to become the next ruler of the kingdom of Eretzar. And as she's raised, she's trained in certain aspects so that she can go to compete to become one of the Prince's Council of 11, I believe it is. And then she's tasked with killing the prince so that her mother can become the new queen. And we're following her along her journey and what exactly that means for her having to try to defy her mother's wish to kill the prince after she gets to know him. The next 2 that I'm going to talk about are going to be books from the same series, but that is Prince Freya Volume 2 and Volume 3 by Kiko Ishihara. This story is following this girl named Freya who actually looks exactly like the Prince of Tyr, I believe is their kingdom, and the prince has been poisoned and is dying, and she ends up being discovered, and they ask her to take over the prince's place so that the neighboring kingdom, who is trying to incite a war with Tyr to take over, doesn't realize that he's dead. And she's forced to kind of adapt and fit herself into this role in order to make sure that the kingdom is at its best. The next book that I had to talk about was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is the first book in a new middle grade series following 12-year-old Amari Peters. She's struggling after her brother disappears. Everyone assumes that he got caught up in illegal activities and he has been killed, and they just can't find his body. However, Amari doesn't believe that that's the case, and when one day she randomly gets a briefcase that has invited her to the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs to attend their summer program, she's determined to find out exactly what her brother was up to and where he is and bring him home. And this is just amazing. And then the final favorite that I have to talk about in this first quarter is another manga, and that is Sweat and Soap Volume 5 by Kintetsu Yamada. If you like romances, this is one of the healthiest romances I think you will ever read if you decide to pick it up. It's one of those series or stories where the characters are willing to talk through their problems. They might get upset, they might overreact or not react best the first time a situation comes up, but they do eventually come together and talk about things. I can't wait for the rest of this series. That was the final book of my 5-star reads from the first quarter of the year, and honestly I think that is everything that I needed to talk about in this video. Let me know your progress so far this year. Let me know how many books you've read, or if you have any favorites, or if there's anything that I talked about that you really would like to share. Let me know down in the comments, because I would like to know. I do want to apologize because I think I'm going to put this video up before I put up my mid-month wrap up, because I think it's definitely shorter. I do apologize for video comments and me not responding to them yet. I keep meaning to, but I haven't been on top of editing videos. So when I get off, I'm like, okay, I have to edit my videos, and then by the time I'm done with that, I'm ready to go to sleep. So I don't think it will happen by the time that this video goes up. I will be responding to everything as soon as I possibly can. I just need to get my life back together because March has been a mess and I'm playing catch up at this point. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys in this video. If you like to, give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.